Hello, Dog Pound South campers. This is the Cleveland Browns Dog Pound South podcast, part of the Fanatical L's Network, part of the Fans First Sports Network, brought to you by Hemisphere Coffee. I'm your host, Steve Gill, on this wonderful Sunday morning here in Nashville. It's going to be hot as Hades. Welcome to the South. Mid 90s, high humidity. I mean, it's oppressive. I've already been out once to clean up my car a little bit, and whew, man, make you sweat. So here we are, 12 days until rookies report, 14 days until veterans report. So we basically got 2 weeks. And in that meantime, you're going to see a lot of lists and stuff like the one move every team needs to make, the one thing that could make the season go wrong. I've been reading a few articles here and there, and I saw some projections for the Browns, and I'm going to give you both sides on what I saw. First of all, Albert Breer. Albert Breer is a very good national reporter. He carries no animosity towards the Cleveland Browns. If you read something about the Browns from him, he knows what he's talking about. And I'm saying this not because of what he recently wrote, because of what he's written over the past couple of years. He had doubts about the team last year and their change in offense, and we all saw how that happened. So, he basically says that they will make the playoffs, at least a wild card. And his reasoning is because they're returning mostly the same roster that they had in 2023, which produced 11 wins. And he really believes that Flacco, who knows how to run Kevin Stefanski's offense, is going to have a good year. Because remember, we're going back to the wide zone. And that's where the importance lies, especially in the middle of the offensive line. If the offense is going to work, it's up to the offensive line. 2 years ago, they were running the wide zone, won 11 games. They still had injuries, but the injuries were covered by the backups on the roster, not by the guys in the practice squad. Last year, they started the season with 2 tackles who should have never saw on the field for the entire year. And they have to go up against the Dallas Cowboys and Micah Parsons. That was a recipe for disaster right off the bat. So you've got the tale of 23 and the tale of 24. Plus in 24, they were running a brand new offense. They had personnel to run a wide zone. And it just wasn't going to work. And here's why. I have a few pet peeves when I watch my favorite football teams. One is penalties. I hate penalties. Penalties are easy corrections. Number 2 is getting to the offensive line out of the huddle quickly. And they are related. So if you should be at the offensive line somewhere around, out of the huddle, somewhere around 20, 22 seconds. You make the play call the play in the huddle, and you get up to the offensive line. Now, for Kevin Stefanski's offense, this is equally important because he runs a lot of motion. So he sends somebody in motion. The quarterback will know if they're in man coverage, the secondary is in man coverage or zone coverage. Tell number 1. This also allows for the defense to set their linebackers. Once the defense sets their linebackers, the offensive lineman who's in charge of making the line calls can make his line calls. And you'll have plenty of time to do that in about 20 seconds. Last year, because they had a brand new offensive scheme taught by a guy who had no idea what the hell he was doing, and I am confident in saying that because after he left and no one noticed he had left, after he left, Mike Vrabel took over, and the offensive line played better. Coincidentally, Jameis Winston was starting at quarterback, so everything looked like it was just because of Jameis Winston. No. Vrabel was teaching the offensive line at that point. Andy Dickerson was gone. And I don't know how anybody missed it. I mean, he wasn't in the position room when they started airing the Hard Knocks AFC North. Mike Vrabel was. Nobody noticed it. Somebody I follow on Twitter noticed it right off the bat. And I went back and watched, and he was right. Where the hell was Andy Dickerson? He'd already left the team. So the offensive line got better with better teaching. So you bring in Mike Bloomgren, who's going to go back to that Bill Callahan wide zone offense. He learned from Bill Callahan. He knows how to run this thing. He ran it at Stanford. He ran it at Rice. And it worked. So the offensive line, you've got your interior, the guys that pull the most, your two guards and your center. They will go back to doing what they do best. So that makes sense. That makes sense to me that, yes, they have a potential. I know Vegas has put them at 4.5 to 5.5 wins. But, I got a feeling, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Let's see if they can control the injuries. The big concern, kind of, which a lot of media people are going to point out, is Bitonio, Teller, and Posick are all in their last year. Bitonio is going to retire, and Teller and Posick are on their last year of their contracts. So what are they going to do next year? Well, that's why they drafted Zach Zinner. That's why they drafted Luke Whippler. It can't be helped that they had injuries. I mean, Whippler, before he got hurt last year, looked very good. Zinter has looked good in OTAs. He's gotten stronger. He was coming from a broken leg, so he really didn't have the lower body strength. And plus, they went out and signed two guys. I keep telling you, Cornelius Lucas is going to surprise a lot of people. But Tavon Jenkins was listed as the third-rated offensive guard in free agency this year, going into free agency. Third highest. So, and he's only 27 years old. He can play both guard positions, and he can play some left tackle if it needs a pinch. So what you're going to see in training camp, you're going to see a lot of Zinter playing center. And you're going to see probably Tavon Jenkins at both guard spots. Now, they still need another guard. It could be Cohen, Javon Cohen, who I liked, an undrafted rookie free agent out of Miami. I liked him a lot when they signed him. Could be him. But they're going to replace these three guys with younger players, and that's what it's going to look like going forward. So they're going to go back to the wide zone offense. The wide zone offense where you can run the ball. There's a lot of motion. Quarterback can see what's going on in the defense, and we can start eliminating some of this pre-snap penalty crap that they had last year. Okay? So that's a positive, and Albert Breer brings that out. We have another guy who puts out a projection of teams solely based on statistics. As you know, I am not a big fan of statistics. Someone once said 99% of statistics only tell 49% of the story. And then there's that quote that everybody attributes to Vince Scully: statistics are like a lamppost to a drunken man, more for support than illumination. Little news, a little heads up on that. That wasn't Vince Scully, didn't create that line. It was created by a Scottish poet named Andrew Lang, 18th century Scottish poet named Andrew Lang. I'm a stickler for details. Sue me. All right, so when we come back, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the other side of the spectrum. So here's a short break. And again, I want to thank Hemisphere Coffee for sponsoring us here at the Fanatical Elves Network. All right, so Mike Clay. Mike Clay works for ESPN, and he puts out a little projection every year solely based on statistics. He did the Browns, and I found a lot of problems with his analysis because, like I said, 99% of statistics only tell 49% of the story. So let's start with quarterback. He does not think they're going to do well at quarterback because he is projecting Kenny Pickett as the starter. He's totally discounting Joe Flacco. Now, yes, you will see a lot of Kenny Pickett when training camp starts. He will be taking a lot of snaps because basically the Browns don't want to play a rookie in 2025. They still want to win. That's their goal. That's what they're prioritizing, to be successful in 2025. And you can't do that with a rookie. I'm sorry, you just can't. A Jalen Daniels and a C.J. Stroud and come around once in a while. Sanders and Gabriel aren't either one of them. So that leaves Pickett and Flacco. So they're going to look at Pickett as much as humanly possible because they have to pick between him and Flacco. Flacco already knows the offense. He really doesn't need a lot of snaps. So you're going to see a lot of Kenny Pickett, and you're going to see a lot of people saying, oh, Kenny Pickett's going to be the starter. He's getting all snaps. No, not necessarily. It's twofold. If he does turn into a guy like Sam Darnold did this past year with the Vikings, I don't see a problem with that. That means the Browns are winning. Sign me up. I'm good with that. Or you can showcase him a little bit because quarterbacks get hurt in spring training. They always do. And maybe you can turn Kenny Pickett into, I don't know, maybe a third-round pick this coming year. Maybe, who knows? Andrew Berry's very good at getting picks. But to discount completely, and I understand why. He basically saying that it's impossible for Flacco to play all 17 games. Well, he was available in Indy for all 17 games. And a lot of people bring up how he played in Indianapolis last year. Believe me, I watched about 5 games. I live in an AFC South city. So when the Browns were on prime time and the Titans weren't on, like they had a 3 o'clock game, I'd click on, show 3 or 4 different games at once. And I'd always pick the Colts if they weren't on locally. And if they were on locally, I just would watch the local. And that offense was designed for Anthony Richardson, not for Joe Flacco. He did week 2. He did go into Pittsburgh and beat the Steelers with that Colts team. A lot of people forget about that. And he had a damn good game doing it. So, he knows how to beat AFC North teams. So I am not going to discount Flacco simply because I think that he will be well rested and prepared for the season start. I know I've mentioned I could see Kenny Pickett starting, and I can. But if they are truly, and as I've been told, truly prioritizing winning this year, then who gives them the best shot to win? Joe Flacco. All right, Mike Clay also mentioned the running game. And he really didn't get a lot of credence to the running game because simply he doesn't know they're going back to the wide zone offense. That works so well in the running game. I mean, hell, when Nick Chubb got hurt, Jerome Ford still had over almost 900 yards rushing. So he projects that Quinshon Judkins will have 1,050 yards rushing. First of all, I see over 1,200, maybe 1,300 yards from Judkins, based solely on what I've seen a Kevin Stefanski wide zone offense can do. But here's the kicker. Here's the one stat that just shows he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Dylan Sampson. He projects Dylan Sampson will have 47 carries and 202 yards. No. Unless he gets hurt, no. I saw this kid at the University of Tennessee. I live in an SEC town. I went to an SEC school. Just like the Big Ten is shown throughout, if you live in a Big Ten city, you get nothing but Big Ten games on streaming on TV. If you live in an SEC city, all you get is SEC games. And especially University of Tennessee in Nashville, Tennessee. 47 for the 17 games. He projects he's only going to have 47 carries and 202 yards. And then he doesn't even talk about Jerome Ford. See, this is where stats can take you down a road you really don't want to go. Now, the wide receiver room. A lot of people are concerned about it, and there is a legitimate concern. You've got Jerry Jeudy. You've got Tillman, who up and down, and you've got Devontae Johnson which one's going to show up. Well, he does give credit to Judy, Tillman, and Johnson. He said 3 of them are going to have good years. Matter of fact, he says Cedric Tillman is going to have a breakout year. But the receiver number 4 on his projections are Jamari Thrash with 2 catches. 2. I don't see that happening. Then he moves to the tight end. Njoku's going to have his normal Njoku year, and Harold Fannin disappears. Have you never seen a Kevin Stefanski wide zone offense with multiple tight ends? He loves, think back to Njoku and Harrison Bryant. That's all you got to do. Just watch highlights of that, and you'll figure out that Harold Fannin will be better than Harrison Bryant. Or even Austin Hooper. Remember Hooper? Fall down every time he gets the ball, but still they had production with 2 tight ends. That's what Kevin Stefanski does with his offense. And to sit there and actually project one tight end having a normal year and another tight end not having anything of substance, that's ludicrous. Fourth area of my concern with his defense. This just mystifies me. He's projected the Browns to be 28th in tackle, 27th in sacks, and dead last in the league in the interceptions. And then he turns around and ranks them 18th out of all the teams, near middle of the pack. Explain this to me like I'm a 9-year-old. How can you be that bad at tackles, sacks, and interceptions and still be middle of the pack? See, you break down your analysis, you use a heavy dose of statistics, and you miss what's right in front of your eyes. They've gotten better on the defensive line. Mason Graham. Jim Schwartz went to Andrew Berry and said, look, I need strength up the middle. And what did he do? He got a Mason Graham. Everybody said he was a top 5 pick. Everyone. Every draft analysis. And then Carson Schwarzenegger, the linebacker. And I keep going back to Cleveland Browns Daily when Nathan Zagura asked Dane Bugler, because of the JOK injury, what's the one linebacker? What linebackers, plural, can the Browns draft to make up for the fact that JOK may not play? He only mentioned one. Carson Schwarzenegger. He said the guy just pops on tape. You watch his tape and he just flies off the screen. He's a tackle machine. So Jim Schwartz asked for more strength up the middle. He got it in the draft. He loves Malik Collins. Dalvin Tomlinson was very good, but he's a 2-technique nose tackle type. Malik Collins is a 3-technique who's going to bring pressure to the quarterback. Again, go back and watch the Super Bowl and see what the Eagles' defensive line did against who everybody thinks is the best quarterback in the league. And they did it without blitzing. It's just pure pressure. And that's what Jim Schwartz wants to build. Pure pressure. All right. So that's my rant for the day. In the next 2 weeks, you're going to see a lot of crap. I love the lists. I like reading those. Sometimes when a website, the one thing the team is missing is totally off board. But don't believe everything you read in the statistics. I mean, yeah, I know. And people will sit there and say, well, they couldn't run the ball last year. Look at the stats. Well, you look at the stats and then you remember that sacks are added into rushing yards. And having watched last year's game, I watched the New York Giants sack Deshaun Watson 6 times before halftime. And they weren't little sacks. They weren't 2-3 yards. These were double yardage, 10, 11, 15, 19-yard sacks. Raiders got to him a lot. Eagles got to him a lot. That reduces a team's rushing yard. That's where it comes off of. So if anybody said, well, they sucked, they couldn't run the ball last year. Well, yeah, they couldn't because they were playing an offense that none of the offensive line were ready for, and they had a guy teaching it who was not qualified to teach it. And you got to add in the quarterback sacks. So that's it for today. I want to thank you for watching, listening, following, and subscribing. Please go to YouTube and subscribe for all our shows here at the Fanatical Elves Network. And also, like to thank our sponsor, Hemisphere Coffee, where they shake the hands of the farmer. I hope everybody has a great Sunday. Hopefully the Guardians can get off the snide. They need to bring in a bat next year. I'm sorry. They have to. Let's get the young kids up. September, I want to see wholesale kids coming from Columbus. I want to see these young bats, see what they can do the last month of the season. Because this team is not going to make the playoffs. I'm just sorry. I used to be a baseball analyst here locally on an ESPN affiliate. You can see it. They're trying too hard right now. And it's just not going to happen for this year. I wish it was. It would have been a great story. But again, Cavs fail. Guardians are failing. It's up to the Browns to bring us some good news in 2025. So everybody, have a great day. This has been the Cleveland Browns Dog Pound South podcast, part of the Fanatical Elves Network, part of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Steve Gill. And as always, go Browns.